Paxil was the drug that gave me insomnia. I would cry very easily on it, and I completely lost my appetite within the first 2 days of taking it.
It didn't help me study, it didn't help me do anything. I didn't even want to do work because I was so sick.
The side meds didn't help me at all. They made matters, I'd say probably like 10 times worse for me, maybe even 20.
Only now I was further impaired by the medications, and I started having car accidents.
They put me on Zoloft, and it made me want to kill myself.
And I realized that those drugs were just destroying me. Even when I was on them, I realized that they were destroying me.
In spite of the crippling effects of their drugs, psychiatrists and drug companies have used them to create a huge and lucrative market worth billions.
In our society, we often correlate legality with safety. We use household products, spray pesticides, and religiously consume drugs such as Ritalin, Adderall, Oxycontin, and Prozac. We consume all of this, but how many know who made the drugs and where the corporations came from? Who produces the chemicals we trust on a daily basis? These 13 corporations tend to be a blind spot in our understanding of history. Tens of thousands of American toddlers are being prescribed amphetamine, a result of this blind spot. Neos Therapeutics is responsible for candy-flavored children's amphetamine, sold as Adzenys. Shire created Adderall. An understanding of Big Pharma is conducive to a big-picture understanding of the world and power itself. It is an essential puzzle piece in understanding disease, hegemony, and health. For instance, we have Purdue. Purdue Pharma was created in 1892 New York. They are arguably responsible for the epidemic of opioid addiction in the United States, producing hydrocodone, OxyContin, fentanyl, codeine, hydromorphone, and oxycodone. Novartis is the world's largest pharmaceutical corporation by revenue, headquartered in Basel, Switzerland, a 1996 merger between Ciba-Geigy and Sandoz. Novartis is responsible for many drugs, from Ritalin to LSD. Novartis has a long criminal record. They are known for animal cruelty, for drilling the heads of cats open to experimenting on primates. Sandoz polluted the Rhine River in the 1986 Sandoz chemical spill. Novartis owned Syngenta, one of the world's largest producers of pesticides and GM seeds. Recently, Syngenta was sold to the Chinese government. State-owned ChemChina is now one of the world's largest producers of pesticides and genetically modified seeds. Novartis coerces entire countries into banning cheaper, generic versions of their cancer drugs, namely Colombia. Leaked letters revealed Novartis' control over the Senate Finance Committee, as Colombia was warned that their $450 million in Peace Colombia money would be in jeopardy if they did not crack down on generic versions of the cancer drug Gleevec. Eli Lilly was created in 1876 Indianapolis. They are responsible for Prozac, antipsychotics, cancer-causing bovine growth hormones in cows, and cancer drugs to treat the cancer that may have been given to people through Eli Lilly products. Created in 1849 New York, Pfizer is responsible for Zoloft, Xanax, SSRI antidepressants, Viagra, Advil, Chapstick, Robitussin, and more. In 2014, Pfizer spent $2.6 million paying off politicians. The Nuremberg trials of Nazi Germany produced 3 corporations on this list. German chemical cartel IG Farben was split into Bayer, BASF, and Hoist, currently Sanofi. IG Farben was Hitler's largest financial backer and was vital to the extermination of millions in Auschwitz, supplying the poison gas and more. Bayer was founded in 1863 Germany. They invented mustard gas and pioneered German chemical weapons. This painting of chemical warfare was commissioned for the breakfast hall of Bayer's Karl Duisberg. He ate breakfast looking at a painting of chemical warfare. Bayer merged into IG Farben Trust in December 1925 to become Bayer again after the Nuremberg trials. Today, Bayer is known for giving thousands of children AIDS through tainted hemophiliac medicine while internal documents proved they knew it was contaminated. Bayer bought Monsanto in 2016 to create the world's largest seed and pesticide company. Oh, and they also made aspirin. Sanofi, who absorbed Hoish from IG Farben, is the world's largest manufacturer of vaccines. They also produce the allergy medicine Allegra. Severe psychosis in a BBC reporter following Sanofi's yellow fever vaccine is just the tip of the iceberg with this corporation. BASF was another product of IG Farben. Unfazed by the Nuremberg trials, today they are the world's largest chemical corporation. They produce raw materials for pharmaceuticals, plastics, GM seeds, and more. Johnson & Johnson is a household name, known for Splenda, Band-Aids, and baby powder. Unfortunately, their famous talcum powder actually causes ovarian cancer, and they were forced to pay $72 million to a woman who used their product religiously and got cancer. Margaret Hamburg held the highest office at the FDA as commissioner from 2009 to 2015. She ensured Johnson & Johnson's profit through minimal regulation, while her husband's hedge fund, Renaissance Technologies, owned a large stake in J&J. Hamburg's father was president of Carnegie Corporation. Both father and mother served as directors of the American Eugenics Society. Toddlers on Adderall. History of Big Pharma and the major players will provide insight into this blind spot of historical understanding.
But it did not go wholly unnoticed. It was picked up in America on an internet message in the Connecticut research headquarters of the world's biggest and richest drug company, Pfizer. Pfizer moved fast. They chartered a plane to fly to Nigeria with a new drug, both a potential lifesaver and a potential billion-dollar money spinner. Trovan. But Trovan had never been tested on children before. Agu Arondu was a doctor working at the infectious disease hospital in Kano during the epidemic.
Initially we had dozens a day, and we didn't have hundreds a day, thousands a day, and that's how it was. They came coming, but we managed. It was a bad time for Kano. People were scared. There was fear on everybody's face. Meningitis, cholera, measles. So it was a very bad time in Kano. Fear, fear, fear.
At the time, Anas was 6 years old. His parents vividly remember what happened.
Lokacin da ya fara a gida yana zazzabi, ciwon kai, yana faduwa haka yana surutai, sai hankali na ya tashi. Shine na dauke shi na kai shi asibiti.
The time when we go to the hospital, that time the hospital is full with children, with some people, all the children is more than the adults.
Today, the infectious diseases hospital is almost deserted. But at the time, it was so crowded that the medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières, which had flown in to fight the epidemic several weeks before Pfizer, had to put up tents in the grounds in which to treat the children.
Altogether, it was probably 150,000 people that got affected by this meningitis epidemic, of which more than 15,000 died. We had queues of people turning up to the infectious disease hospital. As the word spread that treatment was available for free, people started moving away from the countryside, gathering into Kano City.
MSF had already been in Kano for many weeks and had successfully treated thousands of patients when the Pfizer team arrived at the hospital. The very next day, Anas was brought in, suffering from the classic symptoms of meningitis.
So they give him the card and they take him to the doctors when they come from overseas. They take him to one room. So they do the injection. From that time, they take him to bed.
Anas's father showed us the card that he was given by the white doctors. At the time, he assumed they were simply there to help, like the MSF doctors. Later, The printed label on the card led him to question their motives. Pfizer meningitis study 154149, patient 0001. The very first person they tested. There are strict rules on the conduct of experiments on humans, drafted at Nuremberg after World War II.
There is the Nuremberg Code, which does codify very clearly the rules in trials. And it's quite striking to see that the first sentence is that voluntary consent is essential.
You have to get informed consent. It's part of the social contract between the person whose health is being put on the line for the study and the people who are actually conducting the study.
The fact that consent to an experiment has been given and that the risks have been properly explained and understood is normally recorded on a consent form bearing the signature of the patient, or in this case, a parent. But Pfizer has never produced a single consent form from the 200-odd children that were treated in the Trovan experiment. Pfizer say that because nearly all the parents couldn't speak English and could neither read nor write, a local nurse explained the risks of the trial to them and got their consent verbally. So what was explained when the very first child that Pfizer used in their experiment, Anas, was taken away by the white doctors?
They didn't explain anything, just they said they wanted to help the children about these medicines. They didn't talk anything, only the thing where they talk.
Did they tell you about any of the dangers of the side effects of the medicine?
No, they didn't tell anything.
And did they ask your permission?
No, no, they didn't ask me for anything.
Pfizer have said that the parents of the children who were treated were unable to read and write. What is your answer to that?
No, I'm reading, I'm writing, I speak English, I'm reading English and Hausa, and Arabic, all I'm reading and writing.
100 sets of parents have so far stated that they too were not asked for their consent. Pfizer, by contrast, still do not concede that a single consent was lacking. Somebody is lying. Ali Ahmed is a lawyer who is trying to sue Pfizer on behalf of the patients affected by their experiment.